Lou Reed famously said, and I think he was being a bit silly at the time, but he said one chord is okay, two chords is pushing it, and three chords is just jazz. That's a great quote.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. Andy, John, and time for some music. John, what are you offering up today for me, my friend?
We have the very wonderful Mr. Jonathan Richman. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not. I don't think so.
You may be without even knowing it.
Yeah.
But more on that than on. And so we have a rather interesting and perhaps cautionary tale entitled I Was Dancing in a Lesbian Bar.
Okay. When did you sing a snippet of sing? I use that term loosely. Did you quote a bit of this before in a opening to one of our episodes?
I might have done. Who can tell?
Yeah, well, believe me,
not
I like that. Okay, well, cool. I'll go off and give this, as you put it, cautionary tale a listen, and come back and let you know what I think.
Well, I was dancing at a nightclub one Friday night, and that nightclub bar was a little uptight. Yeah, I was dancing all alone, a little self-conscious, when some kids came up and said, for dancing, come with us. And soon I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh.
Okay, I loved that almost like vibrato effect on the guitar strumming, gently in the beginning, right? Not what we've just stepped into now, which I also like and has more of a jazz, like forward moving feel to it. But his voice sounds really good, and what also sounds really good are these like harmonies that are accompanying him. I don't know if that's going to be like a thing throughout, but it sounds really good. And again, I mean, only 24 seconds into the song, but it's got more of this like stripped back feel. Just a man and his guitar and his buddies that can harmonize. So yeah, interesting. I mean, the name already gives me that this is going to be a pretty playful, funny, fun song. But I don't know if I was expecting this mostly a cappella type delivery. Also, yes, I understand the guitar is there as well, and it sounds great.
Oh, I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, drums, bass, okay. Oh, that bass is great.
Well, I was dancing in the lesbian bar in the industrial zone. I was dancing with my friends and dancing alone. Well, the first bar, things were alright, but in this bar, things were Friday night. In the first bar, things were just alright. This bar, things were Friday night, and I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh, oh, I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
The bass matching the oohs is nice.
I was dancing in a lesbian bar way downtown. I was there to check the scene and hang around. Well, the first bar, things were stop and stare, but in this bar, things were laissez-faire. In the first bar, things were stop and stare. In this bar, things were laissez-faire, and I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh, oh, I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Ooh. In the first bar, folks were drinking sips, but in this bar, they could shake their hips. In the first bar, they were drinking sips. In this bar, they could shake their hips, and I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Oh, oh, I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, and the music is great. God, this bass line is so wonderful. I love how it. I think I said a moment ago when it does the ooh ooh ooh, and it hits those notes along with it. That's great. Definitely has this jaunty feel. The bass line. It's clear that he's having more fun in the lesbian bar than he is like whatever kind of bar the other one is. I guess a normie bar. Um, but yeah, like they're like the normie bar, as I'll continue to call it, is fine. It's doing all the base things that a bar can do or provide as far as atmosphere. But he's definitely enjoying himself in this lesbian bar, which, I've never been to a strictly lesbian bar, but I would imagine that, things are a little bit looser and, the top button isn't done. Everybody's having a good time and just being themselves and not worrying about anyone else's opinion. So there's no stuffy nature to it. And he's enjoying himself. Yeah, no, this is cool. I really, really love the jazzy guitar too. This has got a nice feel to it, a nice movement to this song. That bass. Nice little hesitation there.
Well, in the first bar, things were okay, but in this bar, things were more my way. In the first bar, things were just okay, in this bar, things were done my way, and I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Oh, oh, I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, in the first bar, things were controlled, but in this bar, things were rock and roll.
And roll,
in the
okay.
first bar, things were so controlled, in this bar, things were way, way bold, and I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh, oh, I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Well, I can only imagine how much fun he was having in the lesbian bar. But I was having a lot of fun listening to him sing about it. So much so that 3:42 or whatever flew by. Um, yeah, I would love to get another couple renditions or verses of him comparing the first bar to the second and rhyming the different experiences like he was doing continuously throughout this. Yeah, I like this a lot. It's for such a quirky sounding name, the music is so fun and I guess that checks out, right? That matches. I mean, if you're gonna have a song with a title as eye catching as this, you want to have music that matches it, that's ear catching as well. And this was a I don't know if this is exactly like the music itself doesn't match the kind of music you might hear at a bar. But it seemed a little bit like held back because it didn't like explode into anything super dancey, but it definitely had a groove that made you bop your shoulders. That can't be denied. Because I was doing it most of the time. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this, probably more than I thought I would. But yeah, this is cool. I've never heard of Jonathan Richman. At least I don't think I have. Um, so yeah, hopefully John can give me some more info on this, and if this is the kind of stuff that he writes about, or if he's got like a different sound on some of the other tracks or whatever. But yeah, this is a good time. Let's get back to John and learn more.
Madam Chalet, he's back. So you've had a little prance around with Jonathan in the lesbian bars. What did you make of it all?
Well, I thought this song was wildly charming in its own way. And I really, between two things that really stuck out to me. One, this terrific bass work. That was just awesome throughout all of it. And the lyrics I thought were very funny, and all of this interesting juxtaposing between the normie bar and the lesbian bar that our narrator finds himself. It was very, it stood out to me, made me smile quite often throughout the track. Also, the vocal performance of the harmonizers. I don't know if it's him laying down other tracks or if there's other people accompanying him on this, but that was all really well done, and I enjoyed listening to that as well. It starts with this like faint strum of jazzy sounding guitar, and then enters, I assume, Mr. Richman's voice, which I have to say sounds really great. As do, as I mentioned a moment ago, the harmonies that join him from time to time throughout this track. And just as his lyrics reveal that he has found himself dancing in a lesbian bar, that clean jazzy guitar picks up pace of its strumming and adds a bit of movement to the music. And then the drum beat drops, which is really just strikes on a snare as the guitar continues strumming away. But Lord, the bass that joins this is so much fun and just adds the perfect amount of movement throughout this track. I think there are like at one point the and it happened several times throughout this, the oohs are hit, and it's at the same time the bass is striking the notes as it's going out, and yeah, it just is so perfect in the way that it's all constructed. I love that. And yeah, the harmonies just continue to impress me throughout this whole track. So he seems to be revealing the fact that they do more than just sip in the second bar, and then they actually shake their hips. So again, this sort of refined kind of normie bar versus a place where you can cut loose and have a little bit of fun. And speaking of dancing, despite the song being really stripped back and the guitar work is just funky enough to put a little swing in your step and bop in your shoulders, and the bass is doing that as well. It's just so much fun to like move along to. And after allowing the bright guitar strumming to shine for a bit, he comes right out and says that while the first bar was just okay by him, it was the second bar where things were done his way. He then laments that the first bar, things are too controlled for his liking, but rejoices that the second bar was just rock and roll. And he does this a lot throughout all of this. I just highlighted a couple times, but there's all this juxtaposing of like the blah kind of state of things in the first bar versus all these attractive, maybe to him foreign or different attributes to the lesbian bar that he finds so redeeming. But yeah, it's pretty, it is what it, there's not a lot of like changes or this other part it's all a tidy little package, but it's fun and it's got movement and it's got charm. And I think it's got kind of a fun message behind it too, of like, hey, be open-minded, test new waters, experience new things. It's not so scary out there. So yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was cute, funny, all these different things, which, for all the complex songs that you've given me, I love when you sneak in one of these from time to time too, because it's just fun, man. It's just a fun song.
Yeah. I'll get into it in a sec, but this song is just oozes charm. And he went down a particular path of this sort of naivety, song writing and telling. And lesbian bar is just a metaphor for, this otherness to society. You've got the norm, and you've got the outliers, of which he is gladly a part. Yeah. So anyway, he's a really, really influential guy and has shaped the course of music as we know it. More on that in a sec. So he was born in Boston, Massachusetts, which is in the United States of America.
That's so true.
He's a singer-songwriter associated with rock, folk, proto-punk, and garage rock. Richman began playing music and writing his own songs in the mid-1960s. He became infatuated with the Velvet Underground, and in 1969 he moved to New York City and lived on the couch of their then manager, Steve Sesnick. He worked odd jobs and tried to break in as a professional musician. After failing at this, he turned to Boston. Back in Boston, Richman formed the Modern Lovers, a proto-punk garage rock band. Other notable members of this group were the keyboard player, a certain Jerry Harrison, who went off to play with Talking Heads, and the drummer, David Robinson, who went off and played with the Cars. So yeah, in 1972, so we're talking proto-punk, we're talking Stooges, and we're talking these guys. They recorded a series of demos with producer John Cale, formerly of the Velvet Underground, which included the seminal track Roadrunner and also Pablo Picasso. These are real classics. So these demos were eventually released 4 years later in August 1976 as The Modern Lovers, by which time the group had already broken up. I think I've got that one, actually. Should have got it out. Oh, here we are. 6 Point Magic.
Oh, convenient.
So yeah, Modern Lovers.
Nice.
And there is the guys themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really important album. So at the time when they were doing this, and even to an extent when this was released, 76, glam and prog rock were the norms, and this album was an outlier. It featured a lot of these Velvet Underground influence, sort of 3-chord rocks. Roadrunner is only based on 2 chords and is an homage to the Velvet Underground track Sister Ray. Lou Reed famously said, and I think he was being a bit silly at the time, but he said 1 chord is okay, 2 chords is pushing it, and 3 chords is just jazz. That's a great quote. So, I mean, But anyway, later in 1972, because this is quite confusing, the timeline. Later in 72, the group re-recorded some songs along with some more material, and then these demos were released separately in 1981 as the original Modern Lovers LP. So you've got 2 demos, one appearing in both in 72, one appearing in 76, and one appearing in 81. There's all sorts of shenanigans. They toured and played quite a bit, but they really had trouble securing a record contract. By late 73, Richman wanted to scrap the recorded tracks they got and start again with this mellower, more lyrical sound, influenced by the laid-back music which he had heard when the band had a residency at the Inverurie Hotel in Bermuda earlier in the year. You can imagine. These stymied efforts to sort of complete a debut album deal led to the breakup of the original Modern Lovers in 74. So quite early on, they'd gone. In 75, he moved to California and he rebooted a new version of the band, and they were now billed as Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers. And again, they had their own sort of sound, which is kind of pop with 1950s rock and roll and a bigger emphasis on harmony vocals. This is all the stuff you're getting now.
Yeah.
In the UK, just to say, Richman was recognised as one of the progenitors of punk rock scene, and several of his singles did become hits. Roadrunner reached number 11 in the UK singles charts in 1977, and it was covered by the Sex Pistols. Its follow-up, the instrumental Egyptian Reggae, made number 5 in the UK chart. God knows why. That must have been a sparse few months. Roadrunner is a real mainstay of any, it is a habitual sort of inhabitant of any punk compilation album you get in the UK. It's got several tracks always appear. I always said it's for Roadrunner is one of them. So he continues on. In 87, he recorded his final album using the Modern Lovers group name, Modern Lovers 88. And after this, that was retired and he just went solo. So this track is the 5th track from his 1992 album, I, Jonathan, looking like he's still 18 years old in the cover. Unbelievable. It's his 4th solo album. He's had a long career at this point. I mean, he's been going 20 odd years, in the business. So says here, Richman had striven to convey authentic emotions and storytelling with his music. I, Jonathan, continued this in the same form, this aesthetic, with very simple, very sparse sort of rock and roll arrangement, straightforward lyrics about everyday topics such as music, parties, summer, and dancing. It's widely regarded as one of his best works and is considered a very influential album in the lo-fi genre. It does contain a number of gems. It opens up with Parties in the USA, which leans heavily on Louie Louie, and even goes into bits of Hang On Sloopy as well. And it's just infectious as fuck. And it's about the policeman coming when they're trying to dance in the streets. And the policeman says, go home, to the Louie Louie, go home, and all that sort of stuff. It's really, really funny. There's a song called You Can't Talk to the Dude, which is, again, full of humor as well. And there is a song on there called Velvet Underground, where he does this kind of old rock and roll number about the Velvet Underground, and then he just says, and they go like this, dun, 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 and he goes into a rendition of Sister Ray halfway through the song for about a minute. Yeah, it's unbelievable, and it's actually really good as well. Anyway, I absolutely adore this. It is eccentric as hell, but that's what he is.
Yeah.
But do the lyrics, and then there's a little bit more fun information.
Please.
Well, I was dancing in a nightclub one Friday night, and that nightclub bar was a little uptight. Yeah, I was dancing all alone, a little self-conscious, when some kids came up and said, for dancing, come with us. And soon I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh, I was dancing in the lesbian bar. Oh. Well, I was dancing in the lesbian bar in the industrial zone. I was dancing with my friends and dancing alone. Well, the first bar, things were all right. But in this bar, things were Friday night. In the first bar, things were just all right. In this bar, things were Friday night. And I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Oh. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh. Well, I was dancing in the lesbian bar way downtown. I was there to check the scene and hang around. Well, the first bar, things were stop and stare. But in this bar, things were laissez-faire. In the first bar, things were stop and stare. In this bar, things were laissez-faire. And I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Oh. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh. But in the first bar, folks were drinking sips. But in this bar, they could shake their hips. In the first bar, they were drinking sips. In this bar, they could shake their hips. And I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Oh. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh. And I put in my notes here, guitar, face melt. Not quite, but it does this thing. Yeah. And then the backing vocals come in. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. And then Jonathan comes back in. Well, in the first bar, things were okay. But in this bar, things were more my way. In the first bar, things were just okay. But in this bar, things were done my way. And I was dancing in a lesbian bar. I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh. Well, in the first bar, things were control. But in this bar, things were rock and roll. In the first bar, things were so control. But in this bar, things were way, way bold. And I was dancing in a lesbian bar. Ooh. I was dancing as well. Ooh. Yeah, he's always had a cult following, but he became better known in the 90s thanks to a series of appearances on Late Night with Conan. And his performance of this song has a legendary status, particularly the dance break. And he just stops playing. It's just him with a guitar, and he stops in the middle to do his dance rendition halfway through. And if I mention Napoleon Dynamite, you've probably got an image in you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But the thing is, he's so like childlike in his joy. I mean, as a grown man, even that every person in that audience is totally on his side. It just wins him over in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Another career boost was in the Farrelly Brothers film, There's Something About Mary. Where Richman and his drummer companion Tommy Larkins, they served as the two-man Greek chorus. So each time they would come in and do a little ditty about what was going on with the guy with the guitar and the drums. That's Jonathan Richman.
No shit.
Larkins.
Okay.
Yeah. And they also briefly appeared in a bar scene in another Farrelly's brother film, Kingpin, which I bloody love that film.
That's such a
when she kicks him in the balls, she goes, "You must have really wide feet. You got both." And every time he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "A rubber hand." Every time, brilliant. Anyway, I've gone about Farrelly Brothers for a while.
Yeah, at some point, that movie is so damn good.
Richmond's minimalist songwriting style has been described as whimsical and childlike. He himself has stated, I don't write really. I just make up songs, which I think is a great way of putting it. So his work with the first incarnation of Modern Lovers is a major influence on punk rock. On his second solo album, Brian Eno made mention of Richman's band in his lyrics. His songs have been covered by many artists, including one of the first to do it was Joan Jett and the Pistols, as we said, David Bowie, Iggy Pop, John Cale, Echo and the Bunnymen, and Susie and the Banshees. Quite a elite bunch there.
Yeah.
And the artists that have cited him as an influence, and there's loads, but they do include ones that you know: Violent Femmes, Galaxy 500, They Might Be Giants, Weezer, and Pixies frontman Black Francis.
There you go. That's another group.
And here's the thing you'll really like as well. As a producer himself, Richmond and his drummer pal Tommy Larkins produced Vic Chestnut's final album, Skitter on Takeoff, in 2009. Chestnut opened for Richmond at concerts many times during their later years. And of course, way back in March last year, one of the very first sort of viewer requests was Onion Soup by Vic Chestnut, which is really cool. So I think it's quite a nice link.
Yeah.
He's still going strong to this day, Mr. Richmond. As you imagine, it's only going to be, a double amputation that's going to stop him. And then I doubt it. So his latest album, Want to Visit My Inner House, ? Was released in 2022. I've not heard it. I've only got little bits of his stuff, but I don't think you need too much. Once you've probably got that and a couple of the Modern Lovers albums, that's pretty much all you need. But it's just, again, you spot, it's just charming. It's simplistic, it's charged, but it's immediate, it's fun, and dancing, and judging by his moves on Conan, very dancing.
It's also very sweet in how he is portraying a marginalized culture or a group, in society.
The fun place.
And making it like appealing and fun. So he's won me over with this one, and now it makes me want to go back and check out some of his other stuff. Also, his ties to some great films that you've referenced there that I'm also a big fan of and grew up laughing at. Is another reason to go back and watch those and keep an eye out for him.
Yes, the amount of times I shout Frankenbeans out the window when I'm in a public bathroom is incredible.
Yes.
But
what Kingpin did for the comb over is such pioneering, groundbreaking work. Guys out there proudly wearing the combed over bald spot.
Oh God, what's the guy's name? Big Ernie McCracken. He goes, finally, Big Ernie McCracken is above the law. That's awesome. Unbelievable. It is. Right. I will wrap things up before we go down another wormhole. Thanks for listening to this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fun. And that's what it's intended. Folks out there, tell us what you think. Please drop your comments on this song, this album, this artist, any nights you've had in a lesbian bar, particularly if it's been in an industrial zone. We'd love to hear from you. We enjoy all your comments. We really do. If you like this, please hit the like button. And as you know, you can't say no to Jonathan. You really can't. And if you haven't subscribed already, more drivel like this will come your way if you do. So, what's stopping you? That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of The Audiophiles.
We'll see you later, guys.